StockMiner.com. I'm your StockMiner Brian Johnson, and we are about to enter Christmas week here in the markets. So I do not know what to expect the first couple days of the week. Sometimes these get a little volatile. We just came out of options expiration week. We saw some, I don't know, decent volatility last week on a couple of days anyway. So if you're an intraday trader, there was obviously things to do, but looking at the chart, you can see there wasn't much to do if you're a swing trader. You're just waiting for whatever this push is to be done with before the next pullback or whatever it is starts. So here what we have is a move up in the Dow from last week. We're consolidating, and we're still stuck between these two levels, which I approached on Friday. And that was 11.5 basically and 11.450. Right around in that area. And there's about about a 50 point range here that we're working with. So it's really pretty clear that we're just waiting for moves up and above or down and below any one of these two areas. I would obviously be a little bit more prone to a short if we got back below here than I would to a long if we get above here. I've already kind of made it pretty clear that I'm not all that interested in going long at this point. We can get a little bit more of a pullback. Let's watch this level here if it does tend to drop over this next week. However, any further pushes upwards, if they try to keep the cheer going into December, into Christmas, that's it, then I would expect to see a little break of this area up here and a further push to the upside. I'm watching that 11,600 above all of this stuff here. There's just going to be, I think, could be much of what we saw. It could be very similar to what we saw on Friday, guys, and that was this slow, gradual, boring creep up to the upside. And we saw it all back up in here, right? In here. We've seen it back a few months where it was day after day after day of very, very small, tiny moves within the market itself. Daily showing us very small, tiny candles each and every day, just because the volume wasn't there to push the market one way or the other. A lot of times, these big fund managers don't like making large moves towards the end of the year for good reason. We're coming into the end of the year. They just want to spend time with their family. And the last 2 weeks of the year tend to be a little bit more boring, to be quite honest. Usually you start to see the volume drop out as people kind of leave the markets. Doesn't mean that we don't have a couple of days here and there where it's decent for trading one way or the other, but more, overall, things tend to get pretty boring coming into the end of the year. Dow on a daily, let's flip right to it and just show you that this is that 11,450 area we're talking about, and this is why we're still holding over and above it for support. So drops down below it could see us back into the 11,300 mark, which is these moving averages here. The NASDAQ 60 did the same thing, came back, still testing a lot of these overhead areas, holding on to the 2200 area, which I've been talking about for quite a while. Anything to the downside on the NASDAQ at this point in time, I'm not interested in. I'm just not a big shorter of the NASDAQ. I do like to watch it. It's very indicative a lot of times in which direction we could go next, being a leader in the markets. But right now, it's just in a nice little uptrend here, following the channel lines very, very nicely for the time being, and stuck in the middle of that channel. So once again, no real direction on any of the indices giving us overall market direction. Here we have the little consolidation up here towards the top. Same type of thing as what we've been seeing on a lot of the markets. This is the same type of thing as what we're seeing in Apple, which we'll get to here in just a second. And go figure, because we are dealing with the NDX, and Apple being a NASDAQ stock does look very, very similar to this, holding above these overhead levels of that 2200 area. So any drop below that, watch the 2180 level to hold, which has also been a very big level of support and or resistance for me in the past. NASDAQ weekly, same thing, creeping its way up. One good candle here a couple weeks back, and since then, not really much movement. Volume has been good. It's been decent. People are positioning. People are doing stuff. So we are seeing movement. We are seeing participation. We're not seeing much in the realm of actual direction within the market. Big difference. SPX 60 minute, you can see it pushing this 1246 level. If you guys want to take it up and over for a little bit, great. I'll be watching carefully then the 1250 to 1260 area. I really like 1235 to 1240, and as you can see, we danced and danced and danced in that area for a while. Broke it, came back, retested it, and have since held. The new range is now 1235 to 1245. and we'll just sit around here. And as long as this thing stays up, I'm neutral to bullish on the markets. I'm just not necessarily getting all that excited about playing the markets bullish. If I do play them bullish, I'm doing it via via futures. For those of you that don't know how to play the futures, highly, highly recommend the mentoring course. Is a very, very good tool to have in your belt. Just got done teaching one of my students a little bit more about them and how to use them, and he is absolutely in love with playing the futures now, and for very, very good reason. There's nothing like being able to get out of the markets at midnight if something tragic happens overnight, rather than being stuck in a position where you can't do anything until the market opens in the morning. Lot of benefit in that. It can save you a ton of money in your account when you know how to trade the futures, because you can get out at 1 a.m. or 3 a.m. or 9 p.m. or whatever you want. You don't have to wait till the morning to get out. Huge advantage for a lot of people. That's why I love to trade the futures. Saves me a lot of money. Instead of having to get out in the morning with a big loss, I can get out in the middle of the night for little to no loss and save a lot of money in my account. That, in fact, turns around and goes right back into my pocket. It's as though I made a profit. Even though I've done nothing but save money, I still, in process, of course, it's like making money. So SPX 60 minute, I'm only playing all of these indices long with futures, period. I'm not really all that interested in getting all caught up in a 2-point move or a 5-point move or a 10-point move or whatever this might be. I don't really care. Same thing here on the daily. We're holding above these upper levels, waiting to see which kind of a break we get. Now, we still could see a little bit push to the move to the downside, and if we do, we're going to watch this 1235-ish area, and then below that, maybe we can make it back as far as the 20, which is 1215. Watch for that early in the week. I think we might see, if we're going to see movement, I think that it'll be Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday time frame. SPX weekly here, creeping its way up towards the top of these bars, up and over this overhead. What was resistance is now support. And into that 1250, 1260 level. There's some pretty good resistance coming up above us. So I'd be watching that closely. Just be very careful with any long plays. VIX coming down. I moved a couple lines. Only because the VIX really isn't necessarily a chartable thing for me. It's the VIX. It's volatility. I just look at it to see, are the markets starting to get spooked? And right now the answer is no. So we've come down to retest a lot of these lower support areas. We're holding on to them very well. We still have room, though, from a weekly. You can see getting down here into the 15 mark. For those of you that like options, I highly recommend you start thinking about them right down here in this area. I think you can make some pretty good money if you choose your options and choose your strike and months correctly. I think you could do very well on some option plays down here towards that 15 mark. I've got a strategy I'm working on, and I'm working on that with my subscribers if you guys are interested. Apple 60 minute put, I don't know, it's pretty clear to me. In a triangle, waiting for a break. If we get a break to the downside, watch for 318 to hold. If it does not, we could be in for a little further pullback on the Apple side. If it does break this bottom blue line, I'm not going to panic, but I will be watching 318 very closely. Up above 323, not a bad long. Below 320 and then careful around 318, not a bad short in those areas. Daily, same type of thing. Look, this looks just like the NDX chart, does it not? Perfect. It's just up and consolidating. As long as it stays above that 320-ish mark, which I've been talking about for a long time, I like it. I still like it to the bull side until proven otherwise. Apple Weekly, same type of thing, above 320 until we get back down below 310, whatever, 315, 310. I'm not all that worried about it in the short term. FAS 60 minute. Here's what I think we're seeing right here. This is called a bull flag. Bull flags are bullish. Now in this case, it's kind of at it, on it, out of it, whatever. It's getting close to potentially breaking this bull flag, and if it does, I'd be watching for entries. I like it up and over this 50. If it gets up and over this 50 period on the 60-minute chart, I like it for a long. Could get that thing back to 27-ish, maybe even up back to the highs or beyond. Anything back below, I don't know, back below $25.25 maybe for a short. But I don't know if there's a whole lot of movement in that. You'd have to be very careful with that particular trade. Might work out really, really well, but if this lower blue line holds, you're only looking at about a 50-cent gain or 25-cent gain. So daily, same type of thing. Straight up, pulling back, watch $25. That's the 200. That should act as support if it gets back down there this week. FAZ, this is called the bear flag. If we see moves back below this $10 mark, that might be a good entry to the short side. Could take you back to the lows and even beyond in FAZ. Otherwise, to the upside, anything up over 1050. I love 1050 last week. It held beautifully as overhead resistance. If that gets broke, you could see a little bit of a move up, but once again, you're looking at a play of about 25 cents. Watch this blue line carefully. If it holds, you're going to want to move stops or take profits. If it doesn't and it continues to blast through here for some reason, then obviously you're just in better shape. You got in at 1050, you can make a little extra on it. I would just tell you to be cautious if it does move to the upside. Above 1050, good trade long, but you'll want to watch this overhead blue line to see if it in fact holds. Same thing on the daily. It's right back to this overhead area, and that overhead area is 1050. If we see a nice sharp break to the upside, we could see $11 or back into the 20-day. That would be my target on that particular trade as well if we see it get past that overhead channel line on the 60-minute. All right, that'll do it for today. We'll see you guys again tomorrow night. Have these levels in mind. Remember, we're coming into Christmas. Each day, expect the volume to get a little bit less and less and less as we roll into the end of the week. If there's any, I think, bigger moves, my bias, my opinion at this point, for what it's worth, would be that we would see those moves Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, less of those type of moves into Thursday, Friday. So keep that in mind as we push forward. See you again tomorrow night. Bye.